Victoria's father was Prince Edward, Duke of Kent and Strathearn, the fourth son of the reigning king of the United Kingdom, George III. In 1818, Prince Edward married Princess Victoria of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld, a widowed German princess with two children, Karl and Fedora. The Duke and Duchess of Kent's only child, Victoria, was born at 4:15 a.m. on the 24th of May, 1819, at Kenningston Place in London, England. She was baptized Alexandrina after one of her godparents, Emperor Alexander I of Russia, and Victoria after her mother. At birth, Victoria was fifth in line of succession after the four eldest sons of George III. Victoria's father died in January 1820, when Victoria was less than a year old. A week later, her grandfather died and was succeeded by his eldest son, George IV. When George IV died in 1830, he was succeeded by the next surviving brother, William IV, and Victoria became heir presumptive. In 1830, the Duchess of Kent and Conroy took Victoria across the centre of England to visit the Malvern Hills, stopping at towns and great country houses along the way. Similar journeys to other parts of England and Wales were taken in 1832 to 1835. To the king's annoyance, Victoria was enthusiastically welcomed in each of the stops. By 1836, the Duchess's brother, Leopold, King of the Belgians, arranged for Victoria's mother to visit in May 1836. With the purpose of introducing Victoria to Prince Albert. According to her diary, she enjoyed Albert's company from the beginning. After the visit, she wrote, "Albert is extremely handsome. His hair is about the same color as mine. His eyes are large and blue, and he has a beautiful nose and a very sweet mouth with fine teeth. But the charm of his countenance is his expression, which is most delightful." Victoria turned 18 on the 24th of May, 1837. Less than a month later, on the 20th of June, 1837, William IV died at the age of 71, and Victoria became Queen of the United Kingdom. Official documents prepared on the first day of her reign described her as Alexandrina Victoria, but the first name was withdrawn at her own wish and not used again. Since 1714, Britain had shared a monarch with Hanover, Germany, but under Salic law, women were excluded from the Hanover succession. While Victoria inherited all the British dominions, Hanover passed instead to her father's younger brother, her unpopular uncle, the Duke of Cumberland and Teviotdale, who became King Ernest Augustus I of Hanover. Her coronation took place on the 28th of June, 1838, at Westminster Abbey. Over 400,000 visitors came to London for the celebrations. She became the first sovereign to take up residence in Buckingham Palace and inherited the revenues of the duchies of Lancaster and Cornwall, as well as being granted a civil list allowance of £385,000 per year. Though Victoria was now queen, as an unmarried young woman, she was required by a social convention to live with her mother. When Victoria complained to Prime Minister Melbourne that her mother's close proximity promised torment for many years, Melbourne sympathized but said it could be avoided by marriage. Victoria continued to praise Albert following his second visit in October of 1839. Albert and Victoria felt mutual affection, and the Queen proposed to him on the 15th of October 1839, just 5 days after he arrived at Windsor. They were married on the 10th of February 1840 in the Chapel Royal of St. James's Palace, London. During Victoria's first pregnancy in 1840, in the first few months of the marriage, Edward Oxford attempted to assassinate her while she was riding in a carriage with Prince Albert on her way to visit her mother. Oxford fired twice, but either both bullets missed, or as he later claimed, the guns had no shots. He was tried for high treason, found not guilty on the grounds of insanity, and committed to an insane asylum indefinitely. Her daughter, also named Victoria, was born on the 21st of November 1840. The Queen hated being pregnant, viewed breastfeeding with disgust, and thought newborn babies were ugly. Nevertheless, over the following 17 years, she and Albert had a further 8 children. Internationally, Victoria took a keen interest in the improvement of relations between France and Britain. She made and hosted several visits between the British royal family and the House of Orleans. In 1843 and 1845, she and Albert stayed with King Louis Philippe I at Château d'Eu in Normandy, France. In 1853, Victoria gave birth to her 8th child, Leopold, with the aid of a new anesthetic, chloroform. Victoria was so impressed by the relief it gave from the pain of childbirth that she used it again in 1857 at the birth of her 9th and final child, Beatrice. despite opposition from members of the clergy who considered it against biblical teaching and members of the medical profession who thought it was dangerous. After the Indian Rebellion of 1857, the British East India Company, which had ruled much of India, was dissolved, and Britain's possessions and proctorates on the England subcontinent were formally incorporated into the British Empire, therefore making Queen Victoria the Empress of India. In August 1861, Victoria and Albert visited her son, the Prince of Wales, who was attempting army maneuvers near Dublin, Ireland, and spent a few days holidaying in Killarney. At the beginning of December, Albert was very unwell. He was diagnosed with typhoid fever and died on 14th December 1861. Victoria was devastated. She entered a state of mourning and wore black for the remainder of her life. She avoided public affairs and rarely set foot in London in the following years. In 1866, Victoria attended the state opening of Parliament for the first time since Albert's death. Between April 1877 and February 1878, she threatened 5 times to abdicate while pressuring Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli to act against Russia during the Russo-Turkish War. But her threats had no impact on the events and their conclusion with the Congress of Berlin. Disraeli's expansion in foreign policy, which Victoria endorsed, led to conflicts such as the Anglo-Zulu War and the Second Anglo-Afghan War. In 1887, the British Empire celebrated Victoria's Golden Jubilee. Victoria marked the 50th anniversary of her ascension on the 20th of June with a banquet to which 50 kings and princes were invited. On the 23rd of September 1896, Victoria surpassed her grandfather George III as the longest reigning monarch in British history. The Queen requested that any special celebrations to be delayed until 1897 to coincide with her Diamond Jubilee. The celebration was marked by vast crowds of spectators and great outpourings of affection for the 78-year-old Queen. Following a custom she maintained throughout her widowhood, Victoria spent the Christmas of 1900 at Osborne House on the Isle of Wight. Rheumatism in her legs had rendered her lame and her eyesight was clouded by cataracts. She died on Tuesday, the 22nd of January 1901 at 6:30 in the evening at the age of 81. Her funeral was held on Saturday the 2nd of February in St. George's Chapel, Windsor Castle, and after 2 days of lying in state, she was interred beside Prince Albert at Frogmore Mausoleum in Windsor Great Park. With a reign of 63 years, 7 months and 2 days, Victoria was the longest reigning British monarch and the longest reigning Queen Regent in world history until her great-great-granddaughter Elizabeth II surpassed her on the 9th of September 2015. Victoria's link with Europe's royal families earned her the nickname the Grandmother of Europe. Victoria and Albert had 42 grandchildren, of whom 34 survived to adulthood. Their descendants include the current Queen of England Elizabeth II, Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, Harold V of Norway, Karl XVI Gustaf of Sweden, Margrethe II of Denmark, and Philip VI of Spain.